Yaffee program on WVNN.
So why would a member of Congress or the U.S. Senate, why would they come to Alabama before an election and call voters dumb, fat, and ugly? Why would they do that? Why would they rally with a bunch of left-wing activists? What's the purpose of this? Do they honestly think this is going to help them in this state? No, that's not why they did that. It's all about virtue signaling, and I'll explain this and much more. And obviously, it is Election Day, Republican primary, and I want to get to your take. We were doing it yesterday. We'll continue on today. The Yaffee poll. I want you to weigh in. Tell me who you're voting for. We have the governor's race. Tommy Tuberville, main Republican. Doug Jones, I'm sure will win the Democratic nomination. We have the lieutenant governor's race. John Wall, former Alabama Republican Party chairman, versus Wes Allen, Secretary of State. We have the state auditor's race. Andrew Sorrell, Derek Chen. The U.S. Senate race. I think that's the one most of you are probably really paying attention to. Got Barry Moore versus Jared Hudson, versus Steve Marshall, versus Randy Walker, Seth Burton, and others. So we'll discuss that. Barry Moore is going to come on the show in a little bit. By the way, any of the candidates, if you want to come on the show, even after the runoff, because a lot of these are going to go to a runoff, you're welcome to come on. Most of the candidates I get on, it's because they reach out to me and ask to come on, and I say, okay. So any of the candidates really can come on. So we'll talk about that and much more. You are listening to the Yaffee program. This is the show where you can count on the latest news, the important guests, and the best analysis, all for your morning commute. Here on News Talk 770 AM 92.5 FM WVNN. Outside of the election today, which unfortunately I think it's going to be a pretty low turnout. I'm just not seeing, it's just a gut feeling, but I'm just not seeing the energy behind a lot of people showing up. That's just where things are. When you basically have Tuberville is going to be the nominee and Trump is not on the ballot, you're just going to get a low turnout. I just think that's where we are. So we'll talk about that. But outside of that, I'll have the Alabama bullet points. As I mentioned, we'll speak with Congressman Barry Moore. We'll also talk a little bit about the latest in Iran, which I'm pretty frustrated about. I heard Dale earlier in his show pretty frustrated. His frustration is where I was like 2 weeks ago. So he's catching up to my frustration, frankly. Later on in the show, in the next hour, we'll speak with E.J. Antoni. He is an economic expert with the Heritage Foundation. Want to talk to him about the nomination and the confirmation of the new Federal Reserve chair. Also, the economic ramifications of the Iran war, of the Beijing summit, and yes, what the Federal Reserve can do to fix a lot of these problems. So we'll discuss that. And Austin is here. He's producing today. He's going to do What's Trending later on as well. Austin, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm hoping the political texts end today or tomorrow, but I'm doing well besides that.
Yeah, a lot of texts. Have you got any phone calls?
I got one. I got about 8 texts, one phone call. One phone call too many, frankly, but I only got one of those, so I'll take it.
But today, like 8 today or 8 total?
No, not this morning. That would be, it's only like 8 in the morning. That would be awful.
Wouldn't surprise me, I'll be honest, the way it's going. And then all the signs and everything. And the mailers. That's what always gets me, a lot of the mailers. I got tons of mailers. I'm surprised,
actually. I don't know if I've gotten a single mailer. I've been preserved from this.
Oh, okay. You're lucky. Yeah, for some reason, I guess they think I'm old now because I'm 40. So they're like, we have to send him mailers. So I don't know. By the way, always in the show with the Yaffee program Rewind. And yes, we have the poll. I really want to know who you're voting for. I just have a feeling a lot of you are not voting, which is very upsetting to me. But you could tell me 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. So real quick, I will point out that President Donald Trump, and I'll have some of this in the bullet points, but President Donald Trump did put out a slew of endorsements yesterday. And a lot of these we already knew, and a lot of these are also incumbents. But he obviously endorsed Tommy Tuberville for governor, no surprise there. He reinforced his endorsements for Barry Moore in the Senate race, John Wall in the lieutenant governor's race. And he endorsed a lot of the incumbents, including Congressman Dale Strong. You have Congressman Robert Aderholt, Mike Rogers, Gary Palmer. So that was all part of this as well. I'm trying to see if I'm missing anyone in the primary. I don't know if he endorsed in the congressional district where Jerry Carl is running. I guess because that got redrawn, I would assume he would not make an endorsement there. But in a lot of these candidates are probably going to win. The incumbents, of course, probably are going to win. When it comes to the Senate race, it's I don't really know, because I think Barry Moore will be in the runoff, but it seems to be pretty close between Jared Hudson and Attorney General Steve Marshall. It kind of reminds me of the last Senate race where you had the guy who was first, Mo Brooks, doing well at first. That would be Steve Marshall today. And then all of a sudden you have Mike Durant, veteran, come in. Well, we have Jared Hudson this time. And then you have Barry Moore, kind of like a Katie Britt, where they're both endorsed by Trump. So very interesting there. So that one's going to go to a runoff, I'm sure. The lieutenant governor's race will go to a runoff, I'm sure. The attorney general's race between Catherine Robertson and Jay Mitchell, that might go to a runoff, but that's another interesting one because you have Pamela Casey out there. Maybe she makes the runoff instead of Jay Mitchell. But it seems like Catherine Robertson is gonna at least be the top of that and go to a runoff. So we'll have to see what happens there. Beyond that, though, over the weekend, we talked about it a little bit yesterday. We had AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, show up in Montgomery. Ayanna Pressley show up in Montgomery. Cory Booker show up in Montgomery. George Soros-backed groups, a lot of this funded by him, of course, show up in Montgomery and just start yelling racist over and over and over again. And you might think, okay, this is all fine and good, but does this really help Alabama Democrats at all? Does any of this make people want to vote for Democrats in Alabama, show up to vote, anything like that? I don't think so. But as I mentioned, that's not really what this was about. Now, let me give you the examples here. So first, Austin, if you can, go ahead and play the AOC cut. Here's her crazy comments.
It is not a coincidence, and our whole country must understand that it was not until voting rights were ratified in this country that we got the Great Society. Because when Black Americans have the right to vote and that vote is protected, our schools get funded. When voting rights are protected, health care gets expanded. When voting rights are protected, our country moves forward. In Montgomery, that's what they're actually afraid of. They're afraid of us coming together. They're afraid of us protecting one another. Alabama is the crucible. Georgia is the crucible. Tennessee, Louisiana, Mississippi is the crucible. So if you are not from here, it is time to pull up. Because what they thought was the final blow is actually just the opening silo.
Yeah, the opening silo. Yeah. Like for the grain and the farmer. What does that even mean? Yeah, obviously she meant opening salvo. But she said, if you're not from here, you must pull up. I think there's something to that. There's a reason why she said that. But as other people pointed out, her history is backwards. The Great Society stuff was passed, a lot of it, before the Voting Rights Act was ratified, was made law. So what? So that doesn't even make any sense. And if we want to talk about problems in minority communities in this country, a lot of the problems today go back to what was created during the War on Poverty and Great Society programs, which may be, for some, based on good intentions, but it destroyed a lot of inner city communities and families, which is a big part of that. So I don't know why you're bragging about that. Now, Ayanna Pressley, also a member of the squad, spoke as well, went even further than AOC, if you can believe that's possible. But go ahead and play the Ayanna Pressley cut.
There are people in this hostile anti-Black administration that would rather Black Americans pick cotton than pick the president. voted.
No, I don't think that's true at all. So we're back to the slavery thing. We're headed back to the Confederacy. We're headed back to slavery. Now, remember, all the Supreme Court said is equal justice under the law. That's it. The ruling was just this: equal justice under the law. Treat everyone the same. We're all individual Americans. That's all the Supreme Court said. But somehow that's going to bring us back to the Confederacy. Now, Cory Booker, I mentioned, he was there as well. Play the Cory Booker cut.
Because if we in our generation do not now do our duty, we will lose the gains and the rights and the liberties that our ancestors afforded us. Now is our generation's time to prove worthy of the blessings. Now is our generation's time to respond to the assaults. You see, we have seen this before, where some people in black robes try to deny or take away our rights. We saw it with Dred Scott. We saw it with Plessy versus Ferguson. We even saw it with Korematsu. But the solution in those days was not to sit back and agonize. It was to stand up and organize and mobilize. Because we still live in a democracy no matter how much they try to undermine it. We still live in a nation where the power of the people is greater than the people in power.
All right. So he also said this, just to kind of quote him here, which got a lot of attention. I wrote about this at yellowhammernews.com, by the way. He said, a lot of people are drinking deeply from the wells of freedom and liberty that they did not dig. They are eating from banquet tables prepared for them by their ancestors, sitting back, getting dumb, fat, and ugly, and happy and comfortable. This is one of those moments where we understand our blessings come with obligations. So, yeah, we're just getting dumb, fat, and happy. Vote for me. By the way, golly, talk about over the top. Every time he speaks, he tries to make sweeping rhetoric like he's at the pulpit or something. I mean, it just comes off as so fake. A lot of people are drinking deeply from the wells of freedom and liberty that they did not dig. Who says that? Like, did you put that in AI? Did AI come up with that? I don't even know. But why are they doing this? Because it's about virtue signaling. They know that this stuff does not help their party in Alabama. It does not help get turnout in Alabama. It does nothing for Democrats in Alabama. If anything, it hurts their chances in Alabama. So why are they doing this? Because they want to virtue signal. They want to use Alabama to virtue signal in their states. Look what I did. I went down to the deep South where Republicans are racist, and I stood up to them. So vote for me in New York or New Jersey or wherever they are. That's what's happening. They are using Democrats in Alabama to be useful idiots, and the media, frankly, in Alabama, to be useful idiots for their elections in other places. To virtue signal. That's all it is. Put it on social media. It is nothing to do with actually helping Democrats in the state. If you want to weigh in, you can. Tell me who you're voting for today and what you think of those comments. 866-494-9866. 866-494-WVNN. That is the Yaffee text line. We'll get to the Alabama bullet points coming up next on the Yaffee program. Stay with us.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
Welcome back to the Yaffee program. We are here on News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. I am Alabama's voice of reason, Huntsville's conservative conscience. Congressman Barry Moore, obviously running for the U.S. Senate. The primary election is today. Are you supporting him? Well, he's going to join me to try to earn your vote in the next segment. Right now, though, let's get to those headlines. Once again, we have the Alabama bullet points.
Alabama bullet points. Today's headlines from around the Yellowhammer State.
Sponsored by Larry's Pistol and Pawn. Number 4 today, The U.S. Senate confirms Phil Williams, formerly of Right Side Radio here on WVNN, also confirmed Thomas Govan as U.S. attorneys for Alabama. So the U.S. Senate finally confirmed Phil Williams and Thomas Govan Jr. as U.S. attorneys for Alabama. The confirmation's part of a en bloc package of Trump nominees that passed 46-43 along party lines. Placed Williams as U.S. attorney for the Northern District. Also Govan for the Middle District. Now, Senator Katie Britt presided over the vote and strongly supported both nominees, while Senator Tommy Tuberville praised them as patriots who will do an excellent job. Now, Williams, a Gadsden attorney, conservative radio host, and decorated Army colonel with extensive trial experience, succeeds Prima Escalona. Govan also has a lot of experience as well, so they'll do a great job. Number 3, and maybe we'll discuss these a little bit later, but Alabama voters, so you're voting, will decide 2 constitutional amendments today. So Alabama voters will decide 2 statewide constitutional amendments during this primary election. Amendment 1 expands Aniah's law, which was approved in 2022, by adding solicitation, attempt, or conspiracy to commit murder, plus discharging a firearm or explosive into an occupied building, vehicle, or dwelling. It adds those to the list of serious crimes for which judges can deny bail after an evidentiary hearing. Now, the change aims to close a loophole highlighted by the October 2025 Montgomery mass shooting. Now, Amendment 2 allows sitting district attorneys to receive legislatively approved pay raises during their current term, while prohibiting midterm pay cuts, addressing a constitutional quirk to protect prosecutor, independence. Prosecutors' independence is what I meant to say there. All right, number 2 today, U.S. Senator Katie Britt introduces a bill to block sports betting ads from reaching minors online, which I think is a good idea, frankly. So Katie Britt introduced a bipartisan bill with Senator Richard Blumenthal, Democrat from Connecticut. It's called the Gaming Advertisement to Minors Enforcement Act, to prevent sports betting and gambling ads from targeting minors on social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram. I think minors shouldn't even be on those platforms. That's another story. Now, the legislation aims to curb digital ads from gambling and prediction market sites that can lead to youth addiction, addressing what Britt described as Congress's insufficient action on online child protection. It would empower the Federal Trade Commission to enforce the ban nationwide, with fines up to $100,000 per ad viewed by a minor, overriding state-level gaps that allow companies to circumvent restrictions. Number 1, and what is one of the least surprising stories today, but important, President Donald Trump endorses Tommy Tuberville with final primary eve push, calls him a true winner. So President Trump issued a strong endorsement of U.S. Senator Tommy Tuberville for Alabama governor on the eve of the state's Republican primary, calling him a true winner, a highly respected U.S. senator, and a lifelong leader. Now, he posted this on Truth Social. He highlighted Tuberville's background as a former SEC championship-winning college football coach and praised his loyalty, noting he had endorsed him for the Senate in 2020 when Tuberville defeated Democrat Doug Jones. Now, Trump urged Alabama voters, who said he won big in multiple cycles, to support Tuberville for governor, capping a 6-year political alliance in which Tuberville has been one of Trump's closest Senate allies on issues like border security, military policy, crime, and other issues. Now, Trump, as I mentioned, also endorsed a bunch of other candidates, mostly incumbent Republicans. He has endorsed John Wall and Barry Moore for the U.S. Senate, who's joining me on the show next. Right now, I've got to tell you about the sponsor of the Bullet Points, Larry's Pistol and Pawn. I know a lot of people, you like to get married over the summer, especially June, July. Do you have the rings you need? Maybe you need an engagement ring you haven't even asked yet. You're like, yeah, but where do I get that without paying too much? Yeah, you can go to one of those fancy schmancy jewelry stores and you're going to pay too much. Instead, go to Larry's Pistol and Pawn. You'll get a great deal, trust me. Go to Larry's Pistol and Pawn, located in Madison off Greenbrier Exit 3 by the Big Rusty Water Tower. You can also go to the one in Huntsville off North Memorial Parkway and see the latest deals at pistolandpawn.com. That's pistolandpawn.com. Let them know Yaffee was the one who sent you. We'll be back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVN.
The Hammer Alley Podcast, an 80s flashback mockumentary.
Honestly speaking, in 1987, we knew Hammer Alley was better than Def Leppard, White Lion, Glass Tiger, John Cougar, and other artists named after Wildcats.
How did they go from top of the rock to rock bottom?
That band that won Battle of the Bands, Hammer Alley, is as current as a bowling alley. Have you been in one of those lately?
Hammer Alley.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
N.
We're back here on the Yaffee program. News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM WVNN. Are you voting in today's primary election? I would assume, I would think a lot of you are. Does seem like we'll see what the turnout is. If you are, tell me who you're voting for. We have our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. Joining me on the show right now is Congressman Barry Moore. He is one of the candidates for the U.S. Senate in Alabama. Today is the primary election, and he has been endorsed by President Donald Trump, who posted on Truth Social yesterday reinforcing his endorsement of the congressman for the Senate. He's joining me on the show right now. Congressman, thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, Yaffee, great to be on with you as always, buddy.
All right, so this is kind of your final push before people go out and vote. Tell them why they should vote for you.
Well, obviously President and I did a call last night. He called about a little over 200,000 people, left them voicemails, and then we did the tele rally last night. And he'll just tell you in his words that I'm a good friend, I'm a fighter, and that I won't let you down. And he has mentioned that. He has seen me in the fight. He's been in D.C. about a year and a half. He got, since I've been there, I came in, 5 years ago, and then he got elected a year and a half later. About 4 years later. So him and I have been in the fight, and he's just seen me go to the mat for him. He's seen me defend what Alabama appreciates. There's a reason the president's polling 84% among Republican primary voters, because he does what he says he's going to do. And to that point, he's seen me with him. He knows that I'll do what I tell folks I'm going to do. And so we've got a record we're very proud of. We've stood with the president. We got if you look at these third-party groups that score us, man, I'm most conservative member of the delegation, one of the most conservative in the country, and yet rated one of the most effective. So we've been able to do the president's America First agenda while maintaining our conservative ideas and values while we've been in the swamp in D.C.
So, let's talk about some of those issues right now. Why you think people should vote for you. You have been a big supporter, say, of the Big Beautiful Bill. You helped put that through, and that seems to be the one thing has really helped the economy, even though the war in Iran has been kind of a hindrance with gas prices being higher.
Yeah, that was the biggest tax cut in U.S. history, and we did that with a 2-vote majority in the House, and the president didn't have to call me in the middle of the night. There were some guys that we don't have but 2 votes to spare, and there were guys literally holding up our own party and our own agenda for pet projects within their own states. And for me, it's about putting the American people first, the nation first, and helping the president going into the midterm. So I never hold him hostage. He knows that. We have a great line of communications and in a sense, a great respect for each other. And so that Big Beautiful Bill is amazing. The SAVE Act that we've got over in that Senate, that's a voter ID bill that we desperately need going in the midterms. I supported that. And along the way, I've been one of the top guys. Before it was popular, before Trump was in office, there were 16 of us that said defund USAID. Before Doge ever found the problem, we were saying there was corruption there. And so got a lot of heat for that vote, but that's what we got to have. People who are willing to go in and do what's right. Call a spade, as we say.
Speaking with Congressman Barry Moore, he is running for the U.S. Senate. One of the big issues you've really been campaigning on has been to kind of change the filibuster or get rid of it as it is. You had just mentioned the SAVE Act. They're going to try to pass it through reconciliation, but you think to really pass Trump's agenda, it would be to get rid of the filibuster. Are you concerned, though, about setting that precedent that, you get rid of it, Democrats can use it against Republicans in the future? What do you think?
No, I'm not concerned because they're going to. I mean, they're going to use it in the future. Just because we do it now, Yaffee, don't mean they won't do it when they get the Senate. I mean, they have done a lot of precedent things, arresting a former president of the United States, indicting a president, impeaching him twice. The fact that you think that the Senate will not, the minute the Democrats are in control of the Senate, they're not going to nuke that thing and drive this leftist agenda. They've been driving a leftist agenda in the House. They've been attacking the president. They've been attacking conservatives. They've been pro-life Catholics. I mean, you think this party's not going to nuke that filibuster when they get a chance? They're absolutely going to do it. And as the president has said, Coach has said, and I've said, it's time, if we want to get America First agenda, if we want the Save America Act to get across the finish line to help our country make sure that we have U.S. citizens with IDs voting in U.S. elections, that's just common sense to me, and it needs to be done now, because if we don't, they're going to, and to think that they won't is naive.
So if they get into power and they do nuke the filibuster, do you think one of the first things they'll do is try to pack the Supreme Court? There's a lot of talk about that in the wake of this ruling on voting rights, but other rulings as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think they pack the Supreme Court. They make D.C. a state to get 2 more U.S. senators. They're going to do whatever they can to get a stronghold on the power that they desperately desire and seek. And once they get it, we in the nation are in big, big trouble. So it's time to fight, brother, and it's time to line with the president on this issue. I mean, we can try it through reconciliation, and that's fine, but the parliamentarian has to approve that. And I'm not saying the Senate parliamentarian's always been our friend, you know. I'd actually vote to fire the parliamentarian in the U.S. Senate. I'd get him gone.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, can't John Thune just fire that parliamentarian, or does there have to be a vote? I don't really know the process there.
I think there would have to be a vote, but I think we could push the leadership to do that and make sure we get a parliamentarian that actually aligns with the Constitution and the things that we value as citizens instead of playing politics with that office.
Now, I just mentioned that Supreme Court ruling. We had Democrat senators, Democrats members of Congress, George Soros-funded groups come to Montgomery over this past weekend, claiming that the ruling is racist. What Alabama is doing is racist with gerrymandering. What's your response to that kind of rhetoric?
Well, they didn't have a problem when they were doing it in Virginia a few weeks ago when they drew a 10-1. I mean, it went from a 6 Democrat, 5 Republican state to 10 Democrats, 1 Republican. They've been running this gerrymandering game for years, and Holder was the one that sued all the red states. Ironically, none of the blue states got sued for racism. It was just the red states. And so the courts got involved, and the Constitution allows the legislative bodies to draw those districts. And it's just they cry wolf when it suits them. They cry racism. They cry all these things when it suits them, and then they turn a blind eye. Absolutely, their process is dividing districts and states by race. And we need to eliminate that. It needs to be communities of interest. The Democrats play the race card, and then they go out and draw districts based on race. We need to eliminate that and draw them on communities of interest. President Trump's polling 11% higher with minorities. Who's to say minorities can't vote Republican? I mean, it's just one of those things that say, and the Democrats use the race card to maintain power, and that's how they do it. And, you know, again, they cry wolf when it's convenient, and then they go out and draw districts solely based on race to divide the country, divide the states, divide the communities, and the interests go out the window.
Speaking with Congressman Barry Morey, he's a candidate for the U.S. Senate, has been endorsed by President Trump. We do have an issue of the economy right now because of the war in Iran. Inflation is higher, above 3%, having an effect, mostly caused by gas prices. But is there something that can be done to maybe give the American people some relief? I mean, what's the plan here to help the economy? Because if we don't, I mean, Republicans are going to have a tougher time in the midterms.
Yeah, it's going to be a huge issue in the midterms. The economy, it's always the economy, stupid, is what they say, right? And so, you know, cutting $1.5 trillion in spending, putting downward pressure on spending. Washington, D.C. spending is what triggers inflation. And so we've done that with President Trump. We've brought that spending with DOGE. We've cut a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse. We've figured out Minneapolis and obviously the hospice in California, the abuse that was there. So we're cutting the spending. That's going to help. That's long-term, and that's consistent policy. This energy issue right now with Iran is a bump in the road. We need to land that plane. I don't know exactly what the president's going to do there because we're dealing with a regime that's kind of apocalyptic. You don't know how you're going to negotiate with these guys sometimes. But I think the president he understands that energy is driving the cost of things right now. We've got to get a handle on that. And, we're drilling here now, building new refineries. We're doing things. I think the Venezuelan oil is going to help. But long term, you're right, buddy. Between now and the midterms, we've got to get this energy cost down so people are not feeling it at the pump every time. And, of course, energy controls so much of the cost, transportation costs, goods and services. All that's tied to energy costs. So the president gets that. I think we'll work in that direction. I don't know. We just got to figure out how this Iran thing plays out. But we want to make sure we get a solid agreement coming out of there. We don't want to stop just for the sake of a midterm. The president's doing this because it's the right thing to do. It ain't politically expedient sometimes to take on issues that people have talked about for 47 years but never done anything about. So he's a leader. And I think he'll be fine in this process. I think we'll be fine. We just got to we got a little time between now and November, but we need to get that plane on the ground, get a resolution, and get that thing resolved.
Yeah, and we talked about this last week, but you are supportive of Trump's call to maybe temporarily suspend the gas tax, although it seems like it's going to be hard to get that passed.
Yeah, I absolutely support that. That's going to take a little pressure off of the people at the pump. And, I think, Yaffee, as we do that, those of us who are conservative members of the House Freedom Caucus, we need to cut spending, too. So I say we lower the gas tax and cut spending to offset that. So maybe we don't have to put that back on at some point. There's things we can do as we find this fraud, money that's being wasted on, you and I know about the fraud within the federal government. And it's these big systems. A lot of these things, these programs were slapped into place under COVID, and they've not all been reeled in. As we do that, I think there's an opportunity to cut taxes. I would say temporarily suspend the gas tax for now. We can probably find the revenue for roads and stuff down the way as we do this to offset some of that for sure.
Congressman Barry Moore, how are you feeling today? I mean, how do you feel on Election Day? There's almost not as much for you to do on the day itself, but just kind of wait and see what happens. So just generally, how you feeling?
Yeah, man. It's actually, dude, I have a total peace. I got up early this morning, spent the time in the Word, and, I'm where I'm supposed to be in this thing. We're excited about what we're seeing. The numbers there's not any undecideds when people go to the poll. And so we've got a good lead. We feel good about that. We would love to see a nice turnout today. And we are cautiously optimistic that we can do what we need to do, put this thing away. But the president just did a video a little bit ago we released to him just encouraging people to vote for us. And so he swings a big hammer in Alabama. The people love him, and we're cautiously optimistic, my friend.
Congressman Barry Moore, really appreciate you coming on the show. As always, I know we'll talk to you again in the future.
Hey, thank you, Yaffee.
All right, there you go. If you want to react to that interview or contribute to our poll, who are you going to vote for? We'll talk about the U.S. Senate rates. Who are you going to vote for? You got Barry Moore, Attorney General Steve Marshall, former Navy SEAL Jared Hudson. Are you voting today? And who you got? Who do you like? And who do you think is going to win? Tell me on the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. We'll be back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
The Yaffee program.
We're back on the Yaffee program, News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. One person on the text line here did not like Barry Moore's answer when it comes to the question on the economy. So I asked him, is there anything we can do about the economy to help taxpayers because of the war in Iran? Other than suspending the gas tax temporarily, there isn't much that you can do until the war is over. I do think oil prices will go down pretty substantially when the war is over. We might see an oversupply of oil, even though they say there is going to be a demand problem. We'll talk more about the economic ramifications in the next segment with EJ and Tony. But yeah, there's only so much you can do. But if you did want to weigh in on who you're going to vote for, it seems like the Trump endorsement does mean a lot to a lot of you. So if you're voting today, you can also tell me what you've seen. Is it a low turnout? Unfortunately, I think it is going to be a low turnout. Not because, Dale, I know, was talking about this in his show. I don't think it's because people are confused or something. It's just the energy just isn't there. And that's hard to do when, one, you don't really have a contested race for governor, and Trump is also not on the ballot. It's not a presidential election. It's a midterm. So it's already going to be lower anyway. But there's a lot of people just undecided. And that seems to be playing a role, maybe in a low turnout. But it does seem like the Trump endorsement means something to you, but you can tell me what you think. 866-494-9866. Got to tell you real quick what I think about the latest in Iran. I have told you that if we're going to do any kind of negotiation at this point, it should be negotiating their terms of surrender. We need to ramp up military efforts, either have Israel do a lot of it in the country or we do it, use our Navy to force opening the Strait of Hormuz, get rid of any of their leverage that they could have at all, and that would be the way to go. But man, we are just pushing this back and pushing this back. Now, some people are frustrated because the war's gone on longer than the original timeline. 4 to 5 weeks is what they said. But that's because half of that time has been this ceasefire, has been Project Pause, as I've been calling it. But anyway, this is the latest. Going to read some of this from the USA Today. It says Trump delays planned strikes, and Iran describes their proposal. So President Donald Trump said he delayed strikes in Iran, planned for Tuesday, following progress on a possible deal to end the war, though Tehran's latest proposal appears a little changed from an earlier deal that the president rejected as garbage. It says it's a very positive development, but we'll see whether or not it amounts to anything. That's what Trump said at the White House Monday evening about the supposed deal. He acknowledged past moments where he heralded a deal that didn't work out, but said this time is a little bit different. I'd like to know why. Why is it a little bit different? What's the difference? And I'm serious about that. I have no idea what the difference is. I feel like it would be different if we took out more of their military infrastructure. If we actually finished the job when it comes to a military operation. But I feel like they're just going to wait us out at this point. Now we have the Democrat Party and the propaganda press and even some on the extreme right being useful idiots for Iran at this point. And so Iran sees all that and says, well, we'll just wait Trump out and then get back to it. So not happy about this. I'd like to send a stronger message. I would like to turn the Strait of Hormuz into the Strait of Trump, honestly, with the military and get things moving. Don't know if that's going to happen. You can weigh in. We have our Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. People weighing in on the elections today, also on Iran, and you're doing that on the Yaffee text line, sponsored by RegenesisStemCell.com. Go to RegenesisStemCell.com, make an appointment if maybe you're dealing with an old sports injury. Maybe you were an athlete in high school and your knees hurt to this day and you don't get to do what you want in life because you just have to deal with that pain. Well, you don't have to deal with that pain. They use your body's own adult stem cells to get relief for the pain, and it's non-invasive surgery. There's really no downtime. So I want you to contact them today. Make an appointment at RegenesisStemCell.com. It worked on me. It can help you as well. RegenesisStemCell.com. Let them know Yaffee sent you.
It's the Yaffee Program on WVNN.
Hey, I'm Chris Van Vliet. Go behind the scenes and beyond the headlines with the biggest names in pro wrestling and beyond.
You could pop up in WWE tomorrow. Would Saraya be there or would Paige be there?
Paige, 100%.
So when you're setting up Logan Paul to frog splash you through the announce table, what's going through your mind?
This should make every headline in the world.
It makes sense, right? You jelly roll.
We knew we had that kind of a moment.
Mindset, motivation, and what it takes to succeed. Insight with Chris Van Vliet. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
The Yaffee Program on WVNN.
Second hour now, the Yaffee Program, Tuesday edition of the show. Here on Newstalk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. Glad you're here. By the way, we're still doing our polls, so you can text in on the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. Who are you going to vote for in today's primary election? Let me know, did the Trump endorsement make a big difference in that? Let me know on the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866. Headline here from CNBC, Kevin Warsh is going to be sworn in as the Federal Reserve Chair this coming Friday. So President Donald Trump will swear in Kevin Warsh, his handpicked choice to lead the Federal Reserve during a ceremony on Friday. Now, as you know, the new chair will succeed Jerome Powell, whose term expired Friday, but who continues to serve as a pro temp basis until Warsh officially takes over. And of course, he's going to have his work cut out for him. Inflation is higher, much higher than we wanted because of the war in Iran, and it was already a little bit too high even before that. So let's talk about this right now with E.J. Antoni. He is an economist with the Heritage Foundation. You can read all his stuff at heritage.org. E.J., thank you so much for coming on.
Hey, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So, yeah, he's being sworn in this Friday. If I remember correctly, you're a pretty big fan of his.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I will say, though, I had never met the man before just a few years ago, but I have had the pleasure of actually being able to sit down and discuss monetary policy with him, do some really deep dives. And I got to say, the guy knows his stuff, and he will be infinitely better, I believe, than the disaster that has been Jerome Powell, somebody who gave us not only 40-year high inflation, but then the fastest rise in interest rates in 40 years, somebody who froze over the housing market, gave us a regional banking crisis in the spring of 2023. Remember that one? Somebody who I think has been blatantly political and has really helped undermine a lot of ideals at the Federal Reserve. Again, Powell has just been an absolute disaster. I am incredibly confident Warsh is going to be better.
So, and talk a little bit. You talked about the problems with Jerome Powell, but Warsh, as I mentioned, he's got a lot of work to do because of the economy right now. What do you think is going to happen? I mean, they've already kind of paused some of their interest rate cuts that they were going to do. Are they going to have to raise interest rates? But he says, Warsh says he has other ways to deal with inflation other than just interest rates. So talk about that.
Well, exactly. Look, the thing that really caused the inflation in the first place was not just that the Fed had interest rates too low for too long. How did they get interest rates so low? They did it by purchasing literally trillions of dollars of treasuries and mortgage-backed securities. So buying all of these financial products, and in doing so, they were creating money. People need to understand when the Fed buys these financial products, they are doing so with money that they literally create out of nothing. And likewise, when the Fed sells those financial products, what happens? Well, the money goes back into that bottomless well of nothing. In other words, it extinguishes money just as it had created money when those securities were purchased. Because, again, when the Fed purchases something, they do so with a magical checking account that has a perpetual zero balance. They literally are just putting ones and zeros onto a spreadsheet here. And likewise, they're taking them off when those securities are sold. So to reverse the negative effects that of Powell's mistakes, simply reverse what caused them. Instead of adding trillions of dollars to the balance sheet, you need to start selling that off. And I think that's what Warsh is going to be able to do. Now, look, it's going to take them time. We did not get into this mess overnight. We're not going to get out of it overnight. But I think that is the only path forward.
Now, do you think he is still going to be focused on 2% as the goal? I mean, there's a part of me that wishes we could get it below 2% for a while, maybe even below 1%. I don't know. But what do you think? Are we a little too obsessed with that 2 number in terms of inflation?
Absolutely. You bring up a great point. Really, the whole 2% thing, it's absolute nonsense. It didn't even originate in the United States. It's actually from New Zealand, of all places, if you can believe it. Central bankers down there basically decided that, 2% is enough inflation that it'll help us finance government overspending, but it's also small enough that people aren't going to revolt over it. So instead of price stability, aka zero inflation, which is actually the Fed's mandate in law, that's what's in statute. It says price stability. It does not say a steady amount of price increases at 2%. That's what the Fed is supposed to be targeting. In other words, zero inflation. Now, what happened over time was you had academics like Janet Yellen who basically tried to come up with all these justifications after the fact for why the 2% inflation target makes sense, but they're reasons that could only make sense to an academic and don't make sense to anybody who actually has to live in the real world and deal with the value of their dollar going down every single year. So you're right. The inflation target should be 0, not 2%. Whether or not we're going to move to that, I don't know.
Speaking with E.J. Antoni, he is with the Heritage Foundation. Do want to get back to the current state of the economy. I know that you're pretty pessimistic about the future, at least the next 6 months, because of the war in Iran, because even if it ends pretty soon, we could still have oil prices higher than usual for a while.
Well, absolutely. Look, people need to understand we're not going back to pre-war prices in terms of oil anytime soon. That is an absolute fantasy. It's not going to happen. I can give you a couple of reasons why. Number one is the fact that since the war started, you now have energy infrastructure in the region, in the Gulf, which has been damaged or destroyed. So that's going to be a while before that infrastructure is repaired or replaced and that production comes back online. Now, some of that can be offset. Some of that lost production can be offset with increased production elsewhere in the world, places that were not yet producing at capacity. So good news there. But right now we have a supply shock. That's really obvious, right? We basically shut off a fifth of the world's oil supply. It's a supply shock, a negative supply shock. But once the Strait opens back up and that supply shock goes away, you're going to simply replace the negative supply shock with a positive demand shock. Where's that extra demand coming from? All of the nations around the world have been digging deep into their oil reserves to try to minimize the damage from, again, losing a fifth of the world's oil supply. Here at home, we've been bleeding the Strategic Petroleum Reserve at the fastest weekly pace on record, again, in order to try to replace that lost oil and to keep prices down. We're not even keeping that oil here at home, by the way. We're sending most of it over to Asia. All of these nations are going to have to replace their oil reserves once the Strait opens back up. That will be a huge increase in the demand for oil. So again, the supply shock will go away. That's true, but it's going to be replaced by a demand shock, which is going to still put upward pressure on prices.
So, I mean, what can be done then to help, or we just kind of have to ride it out? I mean, Trump did propose, some relief on the gas tax temporarily. I support that, but what do you think?
Well, things like suspending the gas tax are a great idea, provided, and it's a big, this is a big if here, you're going to actually cut government spending to match the reduction in government revenue. That's a big if. If you're going to do that, then sure, that makes sense. But I highly, highly doubt Congress is going to do that. They pretty much never do that. So unfortunately, no, there's not a lot they can do aside from just ending the war, getting out of the region. And I know a lot of people have said things like it's just going to be a non-starter for Iran to toll the Strait. So what if they do? From an economic standpoint, I just don't see it as being very harmful. Maybe from a geopolitical or a military standpoint, there are other reasons. But if you just look at this from a economic perspective, Iran tolling the Strait amounts to about $1, maybe $2 per barrel of oil that's flowing through the Strait. So in other words, instead of the oil coming out of the Strait at $70 a barrel, it's $71. That's not that big of a deal.
Yeah, I would assume it's more kind of what you said, the geopolitical ramifications, because that's a lot of revenue that would go to the Iranian regime. And, what they do with those dollars they're getting is probably the concern. But yeah, I think you're right about that. Speaking with E.J. Antoni, he is with the Heritage Foundation. I know as well you were looking at the Beijing summit, which ended last week. Anything positive out of Trump's meeting with Xi?
Well, I had high hopes for this. I'm not sure exactly what we got out of it, frankly. I know we have different promises for the Chinese to purchase different American products, including agricultural products, but they're basically just simply going to go back to the levels that they were at the start of the Trump administration, because there were different tariffs that were levied on, in the trade war, the back and forth. which has reduced to a certain extent some of the trade between our two countries. And this is simply going to counter that, I suppose. I was also very optimistic that Trump might be able to extract some concessions out of China in terms of helping to get the Strait reopened, because China is obviously a big trading partner with Iran. Look at how much oil they buy or used to buy from the Iranians, and how many Chinese tankers used to go through the Strait of Hormuz. But unfortunately, I'm not sure we saw a whole lot of progress on that front either. So, again, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a Debbie Downer here. I wish I had more positive news for you, but I just don't see a lot of progress.
So what about the idea of China buying American oil?
Part of the problem here is that we just simply don't have enough. I know we talk about how we're at record production levels. I get it. And we talk about how we're a net exporter of crude. But there's a really big caveat there. We are actually a net importer if we're just talking about crude oil. Where we get to be a net exporter, in other words, we're exporting more than we're importing, is when we're dealing not only with crude, but then also crude products. In other words, the stuff coming off of the refinery, not just the crude oil going into it. So we are still very much interdependent with global oil markets. And another big thing is the fact that so much of the oil we get out of the ground here, although it's arguably better quality than a lot of the stuff we're importing, it is not what our refineries are optimally set up to actually process. Believe it or not, a lot of our refineries are much more efficient if they're processing the oil that comes out of places like Venezuela or the Canadian tar sands, or certain areas of the Middle East. That's why we bring oil in from those places. It's because that's what our refineries can optimally process. And it would take a massive amount of retooling in order to get those refineries to be able to optimally process American crude, which is primarily thinner and has a lower sulfur content. It's what we call light sweet crude, primarily. That's one of the reasons why, by the way, we're actually just now starting for the first time in decades to build a new refinery here at home, but it's going to be set up to process now American crude and not just the stuff on which we are dependent from overseas markets.
A little bit of good news you snuck in there. That's good. But you're right. Not all good news today, but got to tell the truth. EJ Antoni with the Heritage Foundation. Read his stuff at heritage.org. EJ, really appreciate it. We'll talk to you again in the future.
It'd be my pleasure, and thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for coming on. All right. You can react to that on the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, and we'll be back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
We're back here on the Yaffee program. As the audience has told me, I am the bulwark of talk radio, especially here in Huntsville. This is Huntsville Smart Talk Radio, by the way. Glad you have joined the show. If you want to weigh in, we're doing our poll. Who you think is going to win the elections today, the primary elections? We have a lot of people think Congressman Barry Moore is going to win because he's got the Trump endorsement. Tell me, are you supporting him? Or maybe Steve Marshall, who's a great guy also? Tell me who you think is going to win, and tell me who you're supporting in that race or any of the races today. Tell me if you voted. What do the polling places look like? Seems like it's going to be a low turnout, just being honest. By the way, in the last segment, we were speaking with EJ Antoni with the Heritage Foundation. He was talking about, at least according to him, economically, it's not really a big deal if Iran decides to toll the Strait of Hormuz. Now, my response is it's not really about the economic ramifications of that. It's about the fact that, one, that empowers the regime, sets a precedent where they can continue to use that as leverage against us. But two, it's a lot of revenue that goes to the regime, which they can use once again to build up their military and fund terrorism. So I'm not a huge fan of the idea of tolling the strait. Now, one person on the text line said $1 per barrel fee by Iran is completely missed the camel snout problem. Talking about camel snout on the 10. If they can establish that they have a right to charge a fee, It will just increase as time goes on. We need to nip that one in the bud now. I mean, I tend to agree with that. I just think we need to finish the job. I understand there's an argument to be made that maybe we shouldn't have got involved. I think it was a worthy cause. But if we're going to do it, we need to do it. We need to finish the job. Now, Jeremy weighed in, and this is on the text line. This is about the election. He said, if you want to keep being a freeloader and you want to keep your government handout, you've got to help Democrats steal elections. Vote Democrat, all your dead family members are. Oh, jeez. Okay, there you go. By the way, something I did not get a chance to talk about yet, but it was big breaking news yesterday. Unfortunately, 3 people were killed at an Islamic center of San Diego. They are investigating it as a hate crime. It was 2 teenagers. One apparently was dealing with issues even before it happened. Now, we don't know much beyond that, but this is one of those instances where the media will be obsessed with it. They will be obsessed with it. They will make a big deal about it. If someone shoots up a synagogue or someone kills 2 Israeli workers at an embassy in Washington, D.C., they'll try to put it under the rug. But now you have this, so they will make a big deal about this. The propaganda press, we'll see what happens unless some new details come out. But trust me, they're going to try to make a big deal about it. But it really is a tragic situation as well. But I have to admit, we don't know the full story yet. If you want to weigh in on everything, on anything you want, let me know on the Yaffee text line, 866-494-9866, 866-494-WVNN. Real quick, I'm going to weigh in on my good friends at Jay's Appliance Outlet, having some big deals right now. If you need a new appliance, maybe a new washer or dryer, they are Athens' official Speed Queen dealer when it comes to washers and dryers. They are the best, by the way, but they have a lot of other options for you as well. But you're going to get it for a great price, and the customer service there, yes, is top notch at Jay's Appliance Outlet. Now, they're located in Athens off Highway 72. You can't miss them. The showroom is great, the customer service is even better, and the prices are even better than that. So go today, Jay's Appliance Outlet, dial pound 250, say the keywords Jay's Appliance Outlet, and when you do, let them know you heard about it from Yaffee. Back in a moment on the Yaffee program.
The Yaffee program.
We are back here on the Yaffee program. News Talk 770 AM, 92.5 FM, WVNN. I am Alabama's Truth Czar. This is Huntsville's Disinformation Board. Glad you're joining the show. Glad Austin is here producing. That means Austin is here to do What's Trending. Let's get to it.
Keeping you up to date with all that's trending in your world.
Oh, they have the internet on computers now.
You guys know how to post videos to Facebook?
It's What's Trending.
Sponsored by Coleman Furniture Market. Their big Memorial Day sale is still going on right now. So maybe you need a new mattress. I mean, you're not getting the sleep you want to. No, I'm not, but that's because we have a new baby, not because of the mattress. But maybe for you, it's because of the mattress and you need a new one. Well, they have Tempur-Pedic mattresses, other brands as well, all at Coleman Furniture Market, located in the heart of Coleman, Alabama. And you can get a great deal right now because of their Memorial Day savings. So see more of what I'm talking about. You can see more about those latest deals on their website, ColemanFurnitureMarket.com. And you can see some of the latest stuff. They're posting pictures every day on their Facebook page and their Instagram page. So like those, check it out. Go to the store in the heart of Coleman, Alabama. They can deliver to anywhere in the state of Alabama. There is a reason why most of the furniture in my house is from Coleman Furniture Market. They always have what's trending in furniture. When you do, let them know Yaffee was the one who sent you. All right, Austin, what's number 5 today?
Spencer Pratt, the gentleman running for the L.A. governor position, has released another video online. Have you been caught up with these, Yaffee? Have you watched any of these videos?
So Not all of them. I've seen some of them. They're AI videos, like you said. I saw the one where he's kind of dressed up as Batman.
Yes, that one was maybe his most ridiculous. I think that might have been his first one that he released that really, I don't know, blew up. But he released an entire, it's not even AI this time, it's just him going around L.A. in his mobile home with the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air theme going over it. The joke here being that now he's the Prince of Bel-Air because he's parked his mobile home in front of country clubs. So it was pretty funny. Every video he releases goes super viral. Like millions of views, very popular. It's crazy that almost a whole campaign has been started just off of internet AI stuff. It's very funny to see.
Yeah, well, and I will say this. That was a big thing that fueled it. But he's also been really good in interviews, and he's been really good in debates.
Oh, yeah, the debate. I mean, he smashed it there.
Yeah, so it's really played a role. Now, it's supposed to be a nonpartisan race, but he is a Republican. So that kind of, unfortunately, the people in LA still have not woken up to the problems caused by the Democrat Party there. But maybe they have. Maybe he wins and they have. But that plays a role as well. But yeah, I mean, he's doing a great job. Really is.
What's polled somewhat as well. So maybe these have an impact. Because like you said, he's in such an area that he's fighting a pretty uphill battle. But who knows?
I mean, maybe it's the start of something. Even if he doesn't win this time, it's like a trend that they can build on in the future.
Yeah, that's true.
What's number 4?
Candace Owens, internet conspiracy theorist, has decided to sit down with Hunter Biden for a full-length interview on Thursday. This is following another interview Hunter Biden did with this Andrew Callahan guy, sort of a big internet name. So I guess Hunter Biden's doing the interview tour, and he's sitting down with Candace Owens. So I just thought that was funny, really. Like, both of these people are just really, really funny to me. The level that she goes to with some of this stuff is just, it's like pyramid Jewish space lasers. It's just so silly and over the top. And then also Hunter Biden is obviously like the bag man for the Biden family. So this is
well, yeah, it's like crazy interviews crazy.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. There's just two characters sitting down. So I was like, that'll be I don't know. That's ought to be entertaining at the very least.
Yeah, although what scares me is there are a lot of people out there that take Candace Owens seriously still. Now, I think they're in the minority, but still.
She's very big with young conservative girl. If you ever go to just like a church and talk to kind of, 25 and under young ladies, you'll get a lot of Candace Owens listeners. But
it's annoying. It's annoying. All right, what's number 3?
A new refrigerator has gone viral. I guess it's not a new refrigerator, but it's Smeg refrigerators. This happens every now and then online. People will say, can we just get classic appliances? Speed Queen will go viral for this. But these refrigerators went viral for being kind of that old, very colorful, kind of red, pastel blue. Like I said, these just sort of blow up every now and then of people being like, we just have not like big screens on everything. I don't want my fridge to have an AI overview voice of, how healthy I'm eating or whatever. So anyway, these sorts of appliances always go viral. And then there's always a commenter that says, hey, I looked up the price on these things. It's like $1,000. It's $1,500. It's $3,000. It's some crazy price. So yeah, these refrigerators have gone viral. So Speed Queen, I guess. That's a more popular name I think people have heard. But
yeah, in some ways they're more expensive because they're just, nobody makes them. So like to find them, you need a specialized thing. It is funny because, when we were buying a new fridge, we looked at ones that had the screens, and my wife's like, no, I don't need another screen. Like, why do I need that on my fridge? I think
screen fatigue is very real when it comes to appliances, cars, just about everything. It's like, I just wanted a button for the AC. That's all.
That is a real thing. Like, because, some newer cars don't have buttons for AC and other stuff, and people, you'll notice that, I guess maybe it was Toyota or Honda. They had gotten rid of the volume knob, and then they brought it back because there was such a backlash.
I'm glad they did, because I only buy cars like 2015 and older, effectively, because that's like when it really started going towards iPad car, and I was like, just pisses me off.
Although, our fridge does have the little thing where it fills up the water for us. Like, it has a little water pitcher, and it automatically fills it up. That's nice. I have to admit.
I did not know. Okay, I didn't even know that happened. There's AI listening to you in your fridge, Yaffee. I can't believe.
Yeah. Or it just fills it up every time.
Yeah.
What's number 2?
The Trump administration has repealed a drinking water limit for 4 different PFAs, forever chemicals, that the Biden administration put in place. A lot of debate has sparked online about this, whether this is in relation to data centers, whether it's just sort of a, I don't know, snubbing the Biden administration, who knows? But you know me, I'm a little bit of a crunchy conservative. I don't love this.
Sure. You're just a little bit of one.
Yeah. It's probably my main issue, to be honest. I wish I really like the fact that there's some conservatives that are kind of coming around on some of this stuff. But yeah, I'm a little disappointed by it. I think it probably is data center related because they use so much water. Continuing to filter that would be complicated. So who knows how that'll go? But
oh man, are you going to be against data centers? Although a lot of conservatives are.
No, okay. I will say I'm not against them entirely for the sort of environmental reasons. I think some people will say that. I'm against it for it doesn't bring many jobs or much economy to the areas they're built in. I'm fine with it being built in. Go build it in a desert, but then you'd have to, pay people to go out there. I think that's really what it is that they want to build them close to city centers so they'll have, people with labor.
That's true.
But then afterwards, it's like, okay, well, once it's built, it's not like it requires as much maintenance as, the Toyota facility out there, right? And
right.
The Huntsville, it's like, okay, that's providing a lot of jobs and economy where it's like the data centers are kind of just, chewing stuff up after they're built.
And I have people disagree with me on this, but I think when it comes to the data centers, it reminds me of a lot when the fracking revolution started. You had people complaining that was hurting the environment, and so many people were against it. And it's like, guys, this is going to be great. And it's been one reason why oil prices right now are not even higher is because of fracking. And there was a big push to ban that. And I feel like data centers is kind of the same thing. There's this like initial freak out about it, but I think it's it's not, a lot of it's not warranted.
Really? Okay. That's kind of surprising because like I said, I feel like it seems like the general consensus against this has been rallied, but I guess you are right. Environmentally, I can see where you're going.
Yeah. Are we number 1 already?
Yes, we're number 1.
Yeah. What's number 1?
Number 1 is Chud the Builder. His bail has been set for $1.5 million. Now, are you familiar with this story? Me and Dale have been chatting about it. Chud, so you don't even know this guy's name, Yaffee?
No.
Oh, my. Okay. He's a very popular online, Clavicular. You know this name?
No.
Okay. You're very out of the loop on this internet stuff. He's beating you on this. But Chud the Builder is a provocateur. He goes around cities and decides to just say racial slurs, a very, an N-word that's very particularly controversial. Yeah. He'll say things like, don't you start chimping out. He's just a very offensive provocateur. And finally, a gentleman attacked him in Tennessee, and he decided to defend himself. He shot himself and the guy, and they are both now in custody. So, yeah, that's a very popular case right now, at least on the internet, I suppose, for how racy it is. It's just a lot of controversial elements to this case, but $1.5 million
So he was
bail.
Arrested for defending himself? He
defended himself, but, again,
he started it.
Yeah, he was provoking it, so it's a very odd case where it's like, well, can you be attacked for saying a word? It's a very particular word that people do not like. So, yeah, he's just continuing to draw controversy for that. He streams himself doing this. This is the new internet era, Yaffee. It's dark out there.
I know that. I'm surprised you have time to look up some of this stuff. I don't have the time to with the new baby. I just have to say, I don't have the time to do. I have enough to keep up with to do this show. Like, I don't know how people have the time.
I guess somehow I considered this a crucial piece of show information, but you're probably right. I think the local elections might be a little bit higher on that radar.
My days are just, they're so busy because when I get off work, I get home and I'm taking care of Evie because we have a new baby. So the mom's taking care of the baby. So I'm taking care of the 2.5-year-old. And it just, she wants to go outside, which is a good thing. She's not on the screen. She constantly wants to go outside, but
that's a very good thing. Yeah, especially given the current world. My daughter is 7 months old. Now we can put her in grass, and she's strangely, she puts everything in her mouth. She has an aversion to eating grass and flowers. She just touches them, which is so nice.
Okay, that's surprising.
Yeah.
I was about to say, My daughter, I'm pretty sure would eat grass now, probably. She's 2.5.
She's like 2, right?
Put it in her mouth. You're lucky. All right, Austin, I appreciate it. We're on the show with the Yaffee program Rewind. In a moment, this is
The Hammer Alley Podcast, an 80s flashback mockumentary.
Modestly speaking, in 1987, we knew Hammer Alley was better than Def Leppard, White Lion, Glass Tiger, John Cougar, and other artists named after Wildcats.
How did they go from top of the rock to rock bottom?
That band that won Battle of the Bands, Hammer Alley, is as current as a bowling alley. Have you been in one of those lately?
Hammer Alley.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
WVNN.
It's the Yaffee program on WVNN.
We're back here on the Yaffee program. If you missed what's trending in the last segment, Austin really called me out for being out of touch. I'm an out-of-touch old guy, I guess, because I didn't know. I still don't even remember. What was it? Clavicular is what he's called?
Clavicular, yes. He's the more popular one. You can't even go online without seeing this kid.
Maybe I have seen him. I don't know. Would you like this? This is my life now as being a middle-aged man. First, I had my my midlife crisis. So I bought a car, and Dale yelled at me for that. But I mean, you know what TV show I've been watching lately? Guess what would a middle-aged man, Zach, watch on TV?
I'm gonna guess sitcoms, maybe like Friends.
Wow, that's the middle-aged man thing, Friends?
It shows my age, I guess. Yeah, Friends.
Wow.
Cheers, maybe Cheers.
I watched that when I was young, though. I love that. I love sitcoms. No, it's worse than that. It's a Jeopardy. I've been getting into Jeopardy.
Oh no.
I'm
Jeopardy.
Getting into Jeopardy lately. And then you know what I do in my spare time, like when I have a few minutes? Crossword puzzles.
Maybe? Oh, crossword puzzles. Okay, that's up there.
Yeah. See? This is my life now. I take care of kids. I clean. I have to do yard work. That's true. Clean the outside of the house. And then I do crossword puzzles and watch Jeopardy. So, look forward to that in a few years.
Crossword puzzles I could look forward to. There's a bit of a brain teaser there. I could get on board.
Okay. Yeah, it's got to be paper ones, not on your phone. It's got to you got to buy it in like a magazine.
100%, a little book of them or something like that. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it really is a way to get your it engages your mind, but also get your mind off of things.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy because I'm showing my age a little bit because I'm finding that at least somewhat appealing.
Yeah, I don't know how I got into it, but randomly got into crossword puzzles. But you have to get the right one. Some of them are too hard. I just have to, like the USA Today crossword puzzles. That's like the right mix of challenging but not impossible.
There's difficulties. You're pretty deep in the game to this to know the challenge
I'm
levels.
You're gonna find out if you get into it. You're gonna find.
I'll look up USA Today ones maybe tonight and see what this is like.
All right, let's end the show like I usually do. We have the Yaffee program Rewind. All right, that time of the show where I remind you, because I know you're old like me, you forget. I'll remind you if you missed the show live, the podcast is up on the website. Go to WVNN.com. You can download the WVNN app or get it anywhere you subscribe and get your podcast. So at the beginning of the show today, obviously, we talked about the elections, trying to get your take. It seems like most of you think that Barry Moore is going to win the Senate race. Obviously, Tommy Tuberville is going to win, and this is the Republican primary race. A lot of this is going to go to a runoff, but except Tuberville, he'll be the winner. But it's election day. It seems like it's also going to be a low turnout. But speaking of elections, we have a new congressional map, which is actually the old congressional map in Alabama. That means we had to have left-wing activists and radical members of Congress come to Montgomery, Alabama, and lecture Alabamians about how racist we are and all of that stuff, including Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, AOC, as I call her. Going to play the AOC cut again for me, Austin.
It is not a coincidence, and our whole country must understand that it was not until voting rights were ratified in this country that we got the Great Society. Because when black Americans have the right to vote and that vote is protected, our schools get funded. When voting rights are protected, healthcare gets expanded. When voting rights are protected, our country moves forward. In Montgomery, that's what they're actually afraid of. They're afraid of us coming together. They're afraid of us protecting one another. Alabama is the crucible. Georgia is the crucible. Tennessee, Louisiana, Mississippi is the crucible. So if you are not from here, it is time to pull up. Because what they thought was the final blow is actually just the opening silo.
Nobody corrected her on that when she was on stage. Opening salvo is what she meant to say. Why are they doing this? This isn't going to affect politics much in the state of Alabama, but it helps them virtue signal. Now, one texter was like, they're not virtue signaling, they're lying. Which, okay, I mean, that's true too. But what I mean by that is they're not actually trying to accomplish something real by what they're doing. They're just trying to get attention for themselves in their own states or own districts. It's not like they're actually going to change anything with this in Alabama, but they can go out there and say, look at me, I'm against this, and get attention. Now, politicians in general are good at this, but this is just such a great example of that because they're not. I mean, this doesn't help Alabama Democrats. If anything, this kind of stuff hurts Alabama Democrats. So that's what they're doing. So we talked about that. We had the Alabama bullet points today. Congressman Barry Moore was on the show. E.J. Antoni of the Heritage Foundation was on the show. We talked about the latest in Iran. All of those segments, the podcast, going to be up on the website, WVNN.com, or anywhere you get your podcasts. Thanks to Austin for producing today. Thanks to you for listening. The Vince Show is coming up next, and I'll be back tomorrow. Same time. See you then.
You're listening to Yaffee on WVNN.
My name is Megan Klingenberg. I was a professional soccer player for over 10 years, and like most players, I gotta be honest, I have some baggage when it comes to referees. I wanted to know, who are these refs? What kind of person gives up their weekend to call fouls and hand out cards? Why do they do it? So this time on the U.S. Soccer Podcast, I'm going to referee camp. The U.S. Soccer Podcast presented by Henkel. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.